Welcome into a Victory Tuesday here in the first Bleav in Panthers Tuesday of 2025. Desmond Johnson and Jonathan Stewart in the house. Just realized we were swapped around. Got that switched over there for you. Loaded show for you today. The Panthers finished their season, a 5-win season, right around kind of where some of us picked we thought they might end up after a roller coaster season. Overtime win over the Atlanta Falcons to send the Atlanta Falcons into the postseason along with us at home. So always good to take a division rival and make sure they can't make the playoffs as well. Loaded show. We'll talk about the NFC South. We'll talk about Bryce Young and his performance on Sunday. We'll talk about the actual field in the playoffs. We'll fill you in on who we think might have the best shot to get to the Super Bowl, and we'll pick our wild card winners too. It's me, Des Johnson, Jonathan Stewart. We're ready to rock and roll. Let's hit it. Bleav in Panthers. Let's go ahead and roll that intro.
Jonathan Stewart gets it, fights for more yardage. Stewart to the mouth of the goal line. Touchdown!
Wow, that's just pure Stewart right there.
That's a big time run by Jonathan Stewart.
Welcome to Bleav in Carolina Panthers here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Do you believe? Rate and subscribe to the show on all major podcast platforms and subscribe to our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Video available weekly at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Do you believe?
And again, welcome into Bleav in Panthers here on the Bleav Podcast Networks. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson from Tobacco Road Sports Radio, joined by the Panthers' all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. You can usually catch us every Tuesday morning around 10:30 a.m. live here on the Bleav Podcast Network. You can catch the video here on the Bleav YouTube channel. The audio will be up a little bit later on the Bleav Podcast Networks, wherever you find any of your podcasts on any major platform. Again, loaded show today into the NFL regular season. We're getting ready for Wild Card Weekend. We'll get you set up for that. Our thoughts on the Carolina Panthers, 44-38 winners over the Atlanta Falcons in overtime, and a pretty exciting game where there really wasn't a whole lot of defense, but that's okay. It was the last game of the year, and we were having fun. So we'll get into that and Bryce Young's ascension, comeback of the year. Got to be. We'll get into this in just a bit, but before we do, and we'll start off with Stu's initial thoughts on that game. A word from our sponsors over at BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football to NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Excuse me, I'm a little stopped up. I got a head cold going on here, so just pardon me here.
Make sure you drink that Cherry Bundy.
Yo, I need some. My wife cleared me out. Like, it was sitting there for a little bit, and then she started drinking it.
You still never tasted it?
I never got a chance. She cleared it, man.
Bro,
She drank the box of wine.
You had it in your refrigerator.
I know. I gave half of it to my mom and dad. They got like joints.
Desmond, are you one of those guys that just eat French fries?
No, Lord, no. My kids do that. It drives me nuts. But no, it was sitting here and I wanted to try it. And then I gave the bottles to my mom and dad, left a case here. My wife got into them and started drinking them because she has issues like joints and stuff too. And she was like, yo, this works. Like, this is really, really good. And the only thing I left is the concentrate, the packets. She cleared me out of that too. So I got to go order some. It really works, apparently. Let's get into it though. Stu, your initial thoughts on this? The Panthers, 44-38 winners over the Atlanta Falcons, basically eliminating the Falcons from the playoffs. And you were on this a couple of weeks ago when we were having the conversation about should the Panthers not necessarily tank, but not try to win these games in order to improve their draft stock. And you were adamantly like, no, like you need to learn how to win by winning. And I feel like that was exemplified in the locker room afterwards as well. Give me your initial thoughts on this Panther win.
It was incredible. It was convincing. That's the word that I would like to use. Ending the season in great fashion. It didn't go the way, obviously, a lot of people wanted it to go. But I will say this. Bryce Young's impressive comeback has transformed the Carolina Panthers' outlook, really. The late season surge, you always love to see it when teams are struggling. What does the team identity, what is that made up of? Do they have any fight in them? Are they being led accordingly. And watching that game against the Falcons had a lot on the line. Obviously, Buccaneers won their game, so it didn't really matter at the end of the day. But going into that game with the intent and purpose of ruining the Falcons' opportunity, they did that. You know what I'm saying? And to come out victorious, both teams are going home to be on the couch, but the Panthers got the last laugh, and that's what Carolina Panthers care about the most, especially for this season. Do we have the formula? And I believe that we do. A victory over the Falcons, basically instills renewed hope in the franchise. And as Bryce continues to develop and the team addresses certain defensive issues, I'm pretty confident and poised, feeling excited for 2025. We have a lot of good that's going on the offensive side of the ball, and to see those guys come together and not have everybody out there on the field. Robert Hunt didn't play, and still come and put up a convincing win, especially offensively. Being able to put up 44 points at the end of the season. They were just playing relaxed. I mean, good. It was good seeing Miles Sanders out there putting up touchdowns and obviously showcasing his ability. And that's what it's all about. These last games, it's an opportunity for these younger guys, the guys that didn't get a chance to get some burn, to be able to go out and display why they're deserving to be on a roster.
I knew we were in for a day when Canales called that double pass thing, like from Bryce to Coker, from Coker crossfield or whatever. When he did that, it was early too.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, he in his bag today. Like we're gonna pull it all out. And then they tried it again a little bit later on. I think Thielen was the one that was throwing it down the field. So they were trying some stuff out, and they were having fun. That's what what you're saying. When they completed that pass, and I could see Coker and like Bryce and them like laughing at each other, like, oh yeah, that worked. That was great. That was great. It's hard to do that in an NFL game. So like seeing them do that and having fun out there, this was to me the culmination of the Bryce comeback tour. And this was something that we were hoping for when Dave Canales benched him in week 2. And you were on this real heavy that this could be a reset for him. And I got to admit, I didn't know if it was going to work because, to be honest, I went back and looked, and somebody mentioned this stat to me a couple of weeks ago. The only number 1 overall pick at quarterback who has been benched in his second season and actually bounced back from it in NFL history is Terry Bradshaw. He's the only one. And
that's great company.
Yeah, if it ends up, if you end up having half a career, the Terry Bradshaw, you will get a statue outside of Bank of America Stadium when it's over with. But when I heard that, I was like, okay. I started thinking about number 1 quarterbacks and ones that may got benched, whatever. I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Because usually if you get benched this early, it's really hard to get back out in that field. And I know that it's kind of like a superhero story, like a Marvel story, because to be honest, Bryce probably shouldn't even be in the game. If you really think about it, Canales was dead set on pretty much staying with Andy Dalton the rest of the year. And it took a car accident to even like happenstance to even get him back in the game. And once he got back in that game, we started seeing this trajectory of him kind of going up. And the Panthers, if I'm not mistaken, the Panthers won 4 of their last 6 games. 3 of the 5 games they won this year were in overtime. There's some stuff to clean up, but I want to hit the positive first. Bryce Young, again, first Panther quarterback ever to throw for 3 touchdowns and run for 2 in a game, which is nuts. Like, again, I thought Cam Newton did that before, but I was a little off on my
Cam
stats there.
definitely did have, I think he had 3 5 touchdown games in 2015.
I know one of them was Washington. I remember that game clearly. Like he came out from the beginning, just hitting everything. Like, it was that was a fun game.
Special.
Special game. That was a video game.
But Bryce Young is definitely on the right path. The trajectory of this man's talent, the trajectory of the confidence on that team, it's going to be a difference maker in this offseason. And just for the stance of, where the Panthers are as a whole, Dan Morgan, it's Dan Morgan time now.
Yes, it is.
And what I'm excited about is that he knows he has a quarterback.
Yep.
And so
doesn't that make it so much easier?
All right, quarterback, check.
Yep.
All right, now we can go and just get creative, in the free agency and in the market. And to be able to finish a season off like that in that fashion, and what your issues are, like other players around the league, free agency, they're going to look at the Carolina Panthers and say, they're up to something. And maybe I want to be a part of that. That's what I'm excited about. Because just continue to get guys in here that are a pro's pro, and to get guys in here that want to level up in their career, want to go chase the Super Bowl ring, want to get the bag, but might not have had a certain chance or opportunity where they are currently. Those are the guys that you want on this roster. And to also go into the season, for Dan to go into this draft and to be able to have a clarity of no doubt in his mind, we don't have to second guess this quarterback position, this running back position, and in my mind, the receiving position, right? I'm going into this thinking to myself, depth on offense, and then some important pieces to fill the gaps that are missing on defense. And so that, to me, it's clear as day for us fans to look at. And obviously he's going to make the right calls, and probably calls that we wouldn't even think that are possible or needed, because that's what he gets paid for. So everybody just sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the ride.
I do think you mentioned wide receiver. They do probably need one more outside guy to kind of take the top off the back end of the defense, which they could probably find second, third round in the NFL draft. This thought started popping in my head, though, when I started realizing we're going to have the 8th pick. Last time we had the 8th pick, we picked a running back, Christian McCaffrey. Turned out pretty okay.
Yeah, pretty good.
There's a guy out there you've been on all year. Plays at Boise State, Ashton Jeanty.
Mm-hmm.
You might be sitting at number 8. Can you picture a Chuba Hubbard, Ashton Jeanty backfield? Now, I know before people start yelling at me, oh, we just got Jonathan Brooks last year, blah, blah. This is a business. I hope Jonathan Brooks recovers from his injury. I hope he's able to participate and contribute. From my understanding, we won't be able to use him at all next year because of the injury that he had. If Jeanty's sitting there at 8, and I'm Dan Morgan, I'm kind of intrigued by that. I'm kind of that's an interesting either him or Will Campbell, the offensive tackle at LSU, I Bleav it is, All-American offensive tackle.
I'm not gonna lie. Once I actually get into my off-season mode, because I've been in season mode, and it's been cool because I've been doing the college stuff, and I've been actually looking at college football this year. So there's some defensive players out there that might be generational as well.
Yeah, there's a quarterback at Michigan I like too. Yeah. So, we got time. We'll get into that.
You have Caleb. I was able to watch Caleb Downs of Ohio State up close and personal, and that guy's the real deal. He's a real deal. And
oh man,
and there's safeties, there's DBs, there's defensive ends. There's a lot of guys out there that could be had and could be used for the Carolina Panthers and any other organization. But that's up to Dan to decide, and I have nothing but pure trust in that man.
And this is for those that are maybe you're not upset now, because a win usually cures all ills. But for those that are mad that we dropped from 6 to 8, I don't think there's much of a drop off from pick number 6 overall and pick number 8 overall at that point. I mean, you're going for what you like and what you want.
And it's nothing to take away. You can't take away the fact that your team finished with a victory, a division opponent at that.
Yes.
So that to me is more crucial, and it's more impactful to the offseason to be able to finish on such a high note, and especially offensively and defensively. You're watching your offense out there just basically saying yo, y'all did y'all thing this offseason. I'm going to do my part now. I need to get better, and everybody's got to get better as a whole, but it puts more of a strain or an extra, an extra motivating factor of, man, my offense came alive this year. Defense, if we just do our job, we can be winners next year. We
And you
can
got
win the division. We
you got
can
Derek Brown
get into
coming
the
back next
playoffs.
year. Yeah, like
Yeah, man.
it's so different after a win like this, and that's what I really want you to echo on, because you've been in this situation in that locker room with the Panthers before, where you guys might have had a sub 500 season, but you got hot in December. Rivera in particular, it felt like y'all would just get hot in December, no matter what was going on. Y'all just kind of started figuring it out towards the end of the year, and you would end on a positive note. Is it overrated, the whole winning at the end of the year, that feeling carrying over into the next year? Because I know you've been on Panther squads where it's been palatable. You can see it. Like, this is carrying over from what they did at the end of last year, 2014, 2015 in particular, where 2014 you guys finished 7-8-1, won the division, got hot at the end of the year, caught up to the division, got in the playoffs, won a playoff game. The next year led to 15-1, the Super Bowl run, and everything else. Is it overrated to say that the previous season carries over positively into the next season, or is that just something that people kind of say and trick themselves?
It's not overrated. When you're able to finish strong and you go into the offseason, now you're training with this like motivation. You're training with a motivating factor that, man, the last taste that I had of football was either a loss or a win. And in our case, in 2014, we had a loss, against the Seattle Seahawks, and it was in the playoffs, though, right? And I remember being on the sideline. I can't remember who I was talking to, but it was a rookie that year, and they were, saying like, "Oh man, we'll be back next year, OG." I'm like, bro, you have no idea how hard it is to get back here, but I love to see it. I love to hear it, though,
Right.
And like that feeling of being in the playoffs when you 7-8-1 and you're basically like, man, we just won all these games in a row. We started the season off this way. Now we're, rolling. You can you can envision what you're supposed to be like as a team. You can envision what you're supposed to be as, as an individual, right? All I got to go do is, I remember that offseason, I went to California, and my training was literally to just be more explosive, right? Because I was thinking to myself, man, if I would have just been able to slip out of certain tackles a little bit differently. And then obviously too, with my health, if I can just find something in the off season to just make sure that I'm more limber, right? I did yoga that off season. I did boxing that off season, like hand-eye coordination stuff. Just train. You start to just have this extra motivation to just get into your bag in the off season to get better. And so when you win games like this at the end of the year, guys are going off into, they're going to take their little breaks, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be calling each other and like, yo, man, what you doing today? You working out? Hey, where are you at? You in Charlotte? Let's go catch some passes. Hey, yo, look, come work out with me. Let's go run. Like, there's a lot of motivating factors that just, continuously creep in your head as far as what can we be next year, because we're that close.
And that's the difference between the past 6 years and this year, where something else that I didn't realize, this is the first offseason since 2019 where the Carolina Panthers will go into the next season with the same head coach, same starting quarterback, same general manager, same defensive coordinator. Like, it's where there's no turnover for the first. That was Rivera's last year. So like, it feels like Panther fans were coming out of the fog. We're kind of seeing this, like, okay, there's something here. Like, we know we got holes. There's things to do. And I had written down future of the NFC South. That game made me feel like that was the future of the NFC South between Carolina and Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr.
Penix and Bryce Young, baby.
Yep. Penix had a day himself. I mean, he threw for 312 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. Had the interception that Carolina's defense forced. Bryce Young, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground. For I think the 6th game in a row, the defense allowed over 200 yards rushing. Bijan Robinson is a problem. 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, every time I looked up on my screen and I saw Robinson like with the ball, he was 10 yards down the field doing something.
The first down every time he touched the ball.
It's like, somebody please, like, get in his way, something. But
yeah, the Saints next year, they're gonna have a problem.
They got all kinds. I've been waiting on this day for so long for New Orleans. It feels like they've been kicking this can down the road with their salary cap for like a decade, and now it feels like it's finally coming home to roost, where like you don't know what they're going to do next year. I felt that way this year. I didn't know what they were going to do, and it kind of held on and then it fell apart. Atlanta's going to be an issue. Tampa, of course, they're the division champs and have been for the past couple of years now. Baker Mayfield, top 10 quarterback in the league, probably.
I think the NFC South is going to be making some noise next year because I feel like the rest of the divisions in the NFC, they're starting to teeter off a little bit. Right?
The West.
You'll definitely have the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not convinced about the Green Bay Packers. You'll have the Redskins or the Commanders. If they go back to the Redskins, we can call them Redskins. But but there's something to be said about what the NFC South is turning into, and they're turning into a division that people would want to tune into. So I expect our schedule next year to be respected. I want to see some primetime games, and don't be messing around with us.
I think Bryce's ascension is going to guarantee that. I think we're going to get a couple of night games next year just for Bryce. And I hope that this wasn't the ceiling. Again, he was the number one overall pick for a reason. Like, I don't know where the ceiling is for Bryce Young.
You know what's cool about watching that game? Because that's the last game of the season, and you have nothing to lose.
And they play like that.
And you know what you do when you have nothing to lose. You play free. And so we were able to watch, this team, this offense play in a way that they're supposed to be playing. When you study, when you prepare, you have the confidence going through the week that you can show up on Sunday and everything's easier. That's the feeling that you want to have on game day. And they had that this Sunday. And I expect that they just continue, that progression of just playing free. That pass that he had to Trimble in the back of the end zone, bruh.
The Steph Curry.
I mean, that was him in a zone.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I'm going to throw it. He's open. I know he's going to catch it. Let me turn around and just look at the scoreboard and say touchdown.
That's a different level of confidence. Like,
And so,
because Tommy almost dropped the ball.
That's a connection right there, though. But even think for Trimble to watch that replay. Man, my dog had confidence in me.
Yes.
Guess what that does to Tommy Trimble. Man, I'm his guy.
It's infectious.
I'm his guy.
And you can hear it in the locker room. Like, one of the things I wanted to tackle, we're not going to have a whole lot of time to get into it, but they are going to retain Ejiro Evero as defensive coordinator. And as I sat on it, because first I was kind of like, I kind of want to move on to somebody else. But that's what we've been doing. We've been recycling through coordinators and stuff over and over. And we all know, we've watched the season. The Panthers went through 80-something players this year on the roster. They've been so banged up. It's not really a clear evaluation. The one thing I took from that, though, that they're keeping him for next year, David Tepper is a man of his word. He's really stepped out the way, because I feel like if he was still kind of in the middle of day-to-day, he might have been in there like, maybe we should try something else, do something, this, that. Him not being around to do that kind of thing tells me that Dave Canales has conviction in EJ, that he believes the system. He's played against it. He's had to scheme against it. He knows he's been going into battles without all of the bullets that he normally would have. I mean, there were some games where, the game we just played, they were on their linebackers, and the sixth one got hurt. Every
downfall of like any position group or one side of the ball or the other doesn't completely fall on the coordinators. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, you just mentioned the injuries, but you also got to look at the position coaches. Like, how are we developing our guys? Because that's the biggest component to all of this. We're drafting guys. We're building a culture. We want to make sure that they become the best players that they can possibly be, right? And so not all of that falls on the coordinators. I think EJ, he's a brilliant mind, because a lot of the stuff that they did dial up this year, if the players would have made the plays, they were in position.
That's a large part of it. Yeah, the players have to catch. They have to run the ball. They have to.
I remember, we sent a blitz and I forget what game it was. It might have been the Kansas City Chiefs, but we sent a blitz, and it might have been it was the Buccaneers. We sent the blitz, and linebacker was right there in position. Now he was, third string linebacker, and he wasn't used to getting in the game like that, so he was in, in a territory that he wasn't comfortable or used to primarily, right? So, but sent the blitz, linebacker right there in the hole, missed the tackle, right? Players got to play.
Yeah.
So, when everybody's asking for, hey, off with his head, coach doesn't know what he's doing. Players play, coaches coach. Just remember that.
People so quick to go through it. People know I'm a Carolina fan. I'm seeing nonsense like that right now where people want to fire Hubert Davis, and I'm like, really? Like, really?
Yep.
Like, I mean, there's people are so impatient. I call it the popcorn generation, where it's like everyone wants their stuff fast, minute
Instant
and a half,
gratification.
instant.
Listen.
Yeah, it's like these things take time to build. Speaking of which, your number one seed in the NFC is the Detroit Lions, who we watched them over the past 2 years kind of go on the same path in terms of finding the right coach.
They was laughing at that man, Dan Campbell.
They were.
Remember
now
that?
who's laughing? Look at them now.
Ha ha ha.
15-2 atop the NFC. And that was a question I was going to pose to you and everyone else. Normally, I know we are doing this live. We are on a different platform. We've been for the past couple of weeks. We've moved over to the Bleav YouTube channel. If you're in the house, you can still participate in open mailbag. Like SP Fan, he says, I saw Kyle Brandt say Panthers are going to be fun. Jay Stu, you called it during the turnaround, maybe after the game in Germany. That was the Giants game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And JC Horn was our number one, our last number 8 pick there. Somehow lost Stu. I only have him on audio for some reason. I'm not sure what happened there. Stu, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you disappeared off the screen.
Oh man, look, we're back. Come on, get back.
I don't know what happened.
Get back.
I've got him he's like behind the curtain, like backstage. Like I'm trying to get him back on. Well, here we go. So while we're getting his camera and stuff resituated back out, one of the things I wanted to,
y'all can see me?
There he is. He came back out from the curtain. I asked Stu off the camera, and I wanted to pose it to everyone too. Kansas City, we're going to throw away that Denver loss on Sunday. They didn't play anybody. They literally played their second and third string guys. Denver needed to get in the playoffs. Kansas City basically gift wrapped a playoff berth to Denver on Sunday. So Kansas City's 14-3. Detroit's, I think, 15-2. Those are your 2 number 1 seeds in the NFC and the AFC, respectively. If you had to bet on who would make the Super Bowl, the number 1 seeds, Kansas City and Detroit, or the field, who would you pick right now going into Wild Card Weekend? Because it's not as easy as it sounds.
I'm going. Now, see, I'm gonna give 2 answers. The first one is from the heart.
Okay.
I'm going Detroit Lions from the heart, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go. Dan Campbell, Peter Gibbs, the whole crew. I'm with it. Detroit, stand up. Eminem and all them.
Yeah.
But I will say, if I'm a betting man, I'm not betting against that man. That boy Patrick Mahomes.
I learned
leave him alone.
We learned our lesson a couple years ago. Like every preseason, we're picking Kansas City to be in the Super Bowl, and we thought it was like there ain't no way this year, right? Like this is going to be like year 4 or 5. They just breezed through the whole league, 14-3.
Yeah,
give up a loss at the end, whatever, don't matter. And they didn't even play that well. Like it's You think Kansas City, Detroit? Is that what we heading towards? Because
I'm thinking Kansas City, Detroit.
The NFC is kind of a mess. Jalen Hurts is in concussion protocol. I'm not even sure if he's going to be available.
He'll be all right.
Brackets here in a bit.
He'll be all right.
Who else? You got a 14-win Minnesota team having to go on the road
to the LA Rams.
Oh, to the Rams.
LA one of them teams now.
Let's get into it. Yeah, because let's get in the walk our weekend before we got to get out of here.
So LA, Minnesota Vikings on Monday. Now that could be a game where the Rams basically say, "Oh, don't forget about us."
Mm-hmm. They've been one of the hottest teams in the league. Yeah,
because Minnesota showed their hand. They can't block nobody. Right. The last game they played Detroit Lions.
Yep.
Detroit, a defense coordinator was over there drawing them up and putting them down. And so, obviously in this league, when you put bad film on, please believe your opponents are going to watch it and try to exploit you. And so I think that Rams game is going to be one where people are going to be like, "Oh, the Minnesota Vikings have been having a great year. Sam Darnold, comeback player, whatever, potential MVP. You better block somebody. I know that." because the LA Rams, they got it on offense. They can run the ball.
They're so good.
Kyron Williams, I think he's been, I think he's a top 3 touchdown guy in the league. And so, they're going to run that ball. They're going to commit to it. When you do that, you got to make sure you cover. You got Puka Nacua, and you got Cooper Kupp, Smitty's guy. So you got that game. You got the Washington Commanders, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jaden Daniels. He's different. That boy special.
He's very special.
And that defense is looking real nice. You got B-Wags, Jeremy Chin out there playing. Who else is over there? Oh, you got Oos. Oos for
Yeah. The Commander. It's interesting. NFC's interesting. It feels top heavy. Like more top heavy than the AFC does. Because I'm including Minnesota in that top. I know they're going to be the 5 seed, and they got to go across the country to play a team, one of the 2 teams that beat them this year in the LA Rams. So think of it like this: the Vikings were 14-1 this year when they didn't play the Lions. That one loss was the LA Rams, and they got to go cross country to play the Rams at the Rams. They're the first 14-win team in history to have to go on the road for their first game in the playoffs.
Ain't that some stuff? Hey, we barely made it, y'all.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this is crazy. I mean, that's the Monday night game. That's on ESPN ABC at 8 p.m. We're gonna work backwards from there. Real quick. Well, did you want to make a pick there? Minnesota Rams?
I'm going Rams.
I'll tell you what, if Sam Darnold is going to be throwing footballs high like he was on a Sunday night, Minnesota's going to go home early. And it's kind of in their history. That's kind of what they do. they did that before. 15-1 in 98. They lost in the NFC title game. Their kicker missed a 38-yard field goal. He hadn't missed a field goal all year. 2009, they had Brett Favre. Brett Favre throws the interception. Vikings lose in overtime. They just they do this. So I'm not trusting Minnesota completely yet. I need them to win a couple of games. I'm going to go with the Rams too on that one. Yeah. Washington, Tampa Bay. Tampa's the 3 seed. Washington's the 6 seed. It's at Tampa. It's Sunday night game, 8 o'clock on NBC. The Bucks, it really depends on which Bucks team shows up, to be honest. Like, they're kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, right?
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay, I think they come away with this one.
I think so. I think the Commanders are just a year or two too early.
I think Jaden Daniels, it's his rookie year.
Yeah.
When you get to the playoffs, defenses start throwing things that you ain't seen all year. Okay. So I think that's one of those things that's going to get young rookie in trouble.
One of the things to look out for in that game, the Commanders gave up an average of 137.5 yards on the ground this season per game. That's the 3rd worst number in the NFL, ranking only behind the Saints and us in terms of rushing yards allowed.
Bucky Irving.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Baker Mayfield might not even need to throw a pass in that game. They just give it to Bucky like 40 times.
Playoff teams can run the ball, and that's what they're going to do. And they're going to be able to run the ball. And again, just like the Rams.
So then we're going to take Tampa on that one. Moving backwards here, Sunday, 4:30 p.m. on Fox. Your 7th seed is the Green Bay Packers taking on number 2 Philadelphia.
Saquon Barkley. He's gonna jump. He's gonna do a cartwheel over somebody in the game. He had a whole week. He had a whole week off while everybody was out there playing. Which, by the way, I'm still kind of conflicted about him not playing and getting that record.
You know what? And people were asking me about that because, like, really half our show last week was us debating whether or not they should play him or not. And then they announced it the next day, so it kind of limited what I could put out clip wise. I was like, well, we can't really do it now. But
yeah,
I'm sure he wanted to play, but if they weren't going to play their starters, I don't know.
He would have been out there solo
by himself. Yeah, I I understood it. And Philly's going to this as the 2 seed. It's one of those things where I think Stephen A. Smith said it. If you're gonna bench him, you better go win the whole thing. That's why you benched him. Like, if you're gonna bench him, you better at least get to the Super Bowl with him.
They ain't gonna have no issue with Green Bay though.
You don't think so?
No.
Even what if who's the backup for Philly? What if Hurts doesn't start? Because he's in concussion protocol, right? Yeah, he's still in concussion protocol, but they haven't ruled him out yet. So
he's gonna play. It's the
He ain't gonna
playoffs. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. If he don't play, then we'll talk about it later. But he's gonna play.
He'll be after the fact, but yeah.
But 4:30, Saquon Barkley gonna be doing cartwheels over people. He gonna be playing the drums. He gonna be over there on the sideline, handing out water, scoring touchdowns. He gonna be doing it all.
So Saquon and the Eagles move on over Green Bay, and then the 1 o'clock game on Sunday is 7th seed Denver at number 2 Buffalo.
I got the Denver Broncos beating Buffalo.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Okay, I'm not that confident.
Bo Nix is him.
Bo Nix has been playing his ass off. I ain't gonna lie.
Listen,
who saw that? Nobody saw that really coming into the season. Like Bo Nix wasn't one of the rookie quarterbacks. Everyone was like, watch out for him. Like,
yeah. Well, you better now you know.
Yeah.
Bo Nix will score a touchdown, you'll be behind.
They did just drop 38 points on the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday, but again, that was the shell of Kansas City. That was like preseason Kansas City that they played.
But you still got to do it against grown men.
You got to go against grown men. Now, we talked about this 2 weeks ago in terms of who was the MVP, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, and we were kind of like, I think it's Lamar Jackson. His stats are better than last year when he won it. He's only threw 4 interceptions. Like
now, Josh Allen, obviously, if he's not on the Buffalo Bills are just Buffalo.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But now Lamar Jackson beat Buffalo. And if you look at the stats in that game, he was the better quarterback.
That's a good point. And they might use that as the kind of the top, because it's come down to a 2-man race pretty much between those two. And it's supposed to be regular season. So they're supposed to be voting on this now. It's not supposed to carry over into the playoffs. And if you just do it off regular season, it's Lamar. In this, though, you're picking Denver. I'm going to go Buffalo. We've talked about me saying playoff windows and championship windows and stuff. This is really the end of Buffalo's window to me. Like, this is year 4 of them being that one of those top contenders. And this is one of their better years. I'm gonna pick Buffalo, and just gonna pick Buffalo. Saturday, 8 p.m. on Amazon Prime. 6th seed Pittsburgh against number 3 Baltimore. It's at Baltimore. Pittsburgh has lost like 4 straight. They were super hot, and then they just they backed into the playoffs. Are we on agreement here that Baltimore is going to run away with this one, or is this going to be one of those situations where Baltimore always does this, where they'll have a playoff game, they do the opposite of what they're good at, and they lose it?
It depends on what the weather is going to be like. What's the weather going to be like in Baltimore?
You know what? It's Saturday. It's going to be at Baltimore. And I don't know if you know, but we got like a winter storm or something coming up the East Coast.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to snow in Charlotte. Y'all better stay in the house.
Yeah.
I know y'all don't know how to drive it when it get icy outside.
Yeah. But now it's saying if it tracks 100 miles further south, we're all getting a whole bunch of snow. If it tracks 100 miles further north, we're just going to get a bunch of rain. So we'll know more about midweek. But yeah, that's going to probably affect that Baltimore game because it's Saturday night. So it'd be at the tail end of whatever's coming up the East Coast. So it'll be outside.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 23 degrees low, 34 degrees high, 65% chance of snow. It's going to be cold.
That's Pittsburgh, Baltimore in the snow.
And so I'm going with the team that's going to be able to run the ball.
You got to go with Baltimore, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you get Derrick Henry for games like this, right? Like that's why you have him. I'm going to go Baltimore too. Going backwards here still as we work our way back up to
LA Chargers, Houston.
Yep, Chargers, Houston, the 5 seed Chargers at number 4 Houston, Saturday at 4:30 kicks off our wild card weekend. That's an interesting one, actually. No,
H-Town gonna stay down. Because the LA Chargers about to come in there and mess around and beat the brakes off there.
That's where I was going. Because
Harbaugh out there got the Chargers looking charged up, and it's about to get messy.
Do you understand now why I wanted Jim Harbaugh? Like why I was on the Harbaugh thing for like 3 years. Like everywhere he goes,
he wasn't made for the Carolinas. Don't worry about it. The LA Chargers needed him. Okay, he needed to be back in California in the sunshine where he shines, and so. LA Chargers over Houston, CJ Stroud seeing ghosts. He had a hell of a season last year. This is one of those, those little slump years. And I think it's just going to carry over. No harm to him. It's just not your year.
Yeah.
They had some injuries. Yeah. Some weapons taken off the board for them.
Tank Dell. Nico Collins. Yeah,
Justin Herbert. He's a
And the
guy
ball.
that understands football. You don't have the flashiest numbers this year, but he understands football. He understands winning, and he does the greatest job. He's done the greatest job this year of managing games. Managing games. And guess who got to the Super Bowl last year managing games? Brock Purdy.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, not getting so outside of your wheelhouse, for what the team structure is. They're gonna play defense, and I think that's just gonna be, LA Charger game.
Harbaugh's such a great coach, man. I've been infatuated with him really since he was at the 49ers, and I did want him in Carolina. I wanted them to go after him hard. And I knew when he got to LA, I was like, he's going to fix the offensive line. He's going to fix the defensive line. He's going to protect Herbert. They're going to run the ball like a lot. We saw this Chargers team the first month of the season, and they ran it up our backs like literally the whole day. That's Harbaugh football. They're going to load jumbo, 8 linemen if I can on the line, smash into it, do it again. 11-win season. And literally, he just punches them out. So the Chargers are interesting one in the AFC to keep an eye on because of who their coach is. I think they're the one seed in the AFC where the high seeds are like, would rather not see them if we could help it. I'm going to pick Chargers to beat Houston on the road. And that's it. That's your wild card weekend. So we'll be back next week. We'll check on that. There'll be some news probably from the Panthers in terms of probably kind of quiet, to be honest, over the next couple of weeks as the playoffs take shape. But there'll be news and notes on players. We'll have ideas of more so who we want to look at offensively, defensively, in the draft, free agents, things of that sort. I'm going to try to get Skylar in here for those who have been asking where Skylar is. Skylar, those that don't know, just had a newborn. He's juggling a bunch of other things. And they moved his Sports Illustrated meeting time to when we do the show. So it's made it hard for him to get on and off, but he's going to try to get in here to give some off-season stuff as well. We're going to go ahead and get out of here for the morning. You can catch the audio version of this broadcast on Bleav Podcast Network's any major podcast platform, Stitcher, iTunes, I think Luminary, Spotify, any of those. You'll find the audio there here shortly. The video will be here at Bleav's YouTube channel. Usually it's under the live tab. For those who are asking me where to find it from, you should be able to find it in the live, or just search Bleav in Panthers. You should be able to find it there. But we should be back next Tuesday with a new episode. We'll go ahead and get out of here. Enjoy your Tuesday. For Jonathan Stewart, Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Panthers podcast on Bleav Podcast Networks, brought to you by Bet Online. Keep pounding.